Hey everyone. Hey folks, so happy to see you all. Michael here. Hope you guys are having a great day so far. Let's give 2 more minutes for everyone who is running late for this to join us, and then we're going to start with content. All right. So basically 2 minutes. And while we're waiting for others, thanks for joining. For those who are the first time here, my name is Michael Maximov, one of the founders at Belkins, Boulder Leads Force, and a bunch of other product and service companies that all together come into the Belkins group that service customers around the world, do appointment setting, email deliverability, lead generation, et cetera, et cetera. I am doing a series of webinars educating folks about different best practices and things that work in the lead generation and appointment setting, starting with template writing, outreach, working with spam. And today we're going to talk about the GDPR, because honestly, if you've done any outbound campaign ever, you always receive something like, hey, removed from your list, or according to GDPR, you can't email me, or you are reported because you are not allowed to email me, etc. Right? So today we're gonna talk with you about what is that GDPR, CASL, and can spam, and how that you guys can do email marketing and be compliant with those laws and generally knowing your ways around them. All right. So I think that, so we're two minutes past. So let's just dive into the discussion, right? Today, you guys gonna learn 3 things. First, what is GDPR, CASL, and can spam, and what makes them similar, what makes them different, right? We're gonna talk about what is considered to be a data breach under the GDPR, and then how this all is connected to cold emailing. And then we're going to talk with you about what are the rules of thumb for cold emailing, how to be compliant with the GDPR, CASL, et cetera, and send good emails that actually are, that people that can be converted. All right. One thing that I wanted to ask you folks, if you have any questions whatsoever, please put them in the chat box or in the QA section, and I will make sure that during the last few minutes of our discussion, I think maybe depending on how many questions we're going to have, we're going to do 10 minutes, 10-15 minutes QA at the end. All right. But I promise you're not going to be bored, because I work with my team to make sure that you guys can get as much content out of this and as much actionable content as we could. All right. One very important thing that I want you to know, I'm not a lawyer, right? So I'm not, anything that I'm going to be talking today, it's purely my experience, it's purely my research, and it's purely what I considered and how it's going to be done. All these laws, and generally, like, if you really want to be compliant then, or not compliant, then there are so many things or so many underwaters that can be done rightly or wrongly. So honestly, if there are some lawyers here in this call, so I'm sorry, folks, but this can be purely a sales and marketing experience, and generally how this can be done or not. Although when I did the research, I used all the materials or source materials, as well as I consulted with our corporate lawyers to make sure that obviously I'm not bullshitting you. All right. And obviously this call will be recorded, and then we're going to send you the recording. So for those that needs to jump off, go ahead and do that and do your work, and then we'll send you the recording. All right. All right. So let's just dive into this. All right. So obviously we all know what is that, or we all heard about the GDPR, and like probably back in 16, 17, everyone was so hyped up about this. Everyone was so preparing for the GDPR. And there was, I think there was even the niche in terms of the consulting that grew as a result of this. And there are so many companies right now that are consulting on GDPR and generally are working towards making companies compliant. But really, when we think about the GDPR, we need to think about the privacy, because it's not just concerning the email marketing that we all are so afraid of, because people that are on this call, they interested in knowing how to be the best into the email channel. So very often when you think about the GDPR, you should think about banks, financial institutions, and really companies and businesses that deal with a lot of data and a lot of private data. And we all been harassed. And personally, whenever, I don't understand how this happens, but whenever I talk something with my friends, I'll Instagram or Facebook start advertising me that within like 30 minutes or something, which is so weird. So that is GDPR. But then if we are talking about what is the GDPR and how it's connected to email marketing, right? Long story short, you must not send marketing emails or texts to individuals without specific consent, right? So essentially you need to consent before receiving something from anyone. But there's always but, right? Here the but is there is a limited exception for your own previous customers, often called the soft opt-in. So the rule of thumb is you don't email to anyone without the prior consent. However, there is something, and this soft opt-in can be considered in different manners. The way how we consider the soft, right? So what is considered to be a soft opt-in, right? So for us, this, and based on my research, the soft opt-in is someone who subscribed to your mailing list. So really anyone who subscribed anywhere in terms of, I don't know, like social networks, posts, mailing lists, etc., have their contact information, they are subscribed for you, right? So they express the interest, right? So essentially, if you like my post and I can consider you that, and I see that you like my post and you express an interest, or there was a call to action, something on left a comment or something. So there was a soft consent from you to what I'm doing. So I can then contact you with regards to that, right? Sign the paper consent form on a conference. Well, that rarely happens. If based on the GDPR, you need to sign a paper consent on the conference or any trade show, whatever. But really, if you give me your business card, then that's a soft update, right? An existing customer or past customers with a similar product. So according to the law, it should be similar product, right? So you cannot just take the database of your customers for one company, transition to another one with a totally different product and just emailing them. And then you see the thing that you are compliant. That's not how it happens. And then reply to your email stating that they wish to receive marketing emails. So long story short, if someone say, yeah, send me more information, then they give you the consent to send it. So again, these are the four main points about GDPR. And then you can play with those soft opt-ins as you see fit. For example, there is a marketing email and then business communication. So let's see the difference between what is the marketing email and what is the business communication, because it's very important, right? So the marketing email is, so for us, how we see this. So the marketing email is an HTML type email or a newsletter type email, essentially that you send for your marketing automation, like CRM, MailChimp, HubSpot, Salesforce, you name it, right? So you have this huge list of marketing automation that are using either drip campaigns or just blasting out emails, or you have a sequence of newsletters or emails, but they're all kind of marketing based, HTML based. They have a lot of links, they have a lot of images, and they talk marketing and sales language, right? So they all have these phrases, the learnings, and et cetera, et cetera. So highlighting and marketing something to those customers. At the same time, the business communication is purely plain text, right? Really, it's a short type email, short type text. It's sent directly from the mailbox. And usually the tools like reply.io, outreach.io, they tend to create the process of the outreach as if you're sending these emails on top of your mailbox. So it feels like it's sent directly from the mailboxes, right? That's why there are so different tools for the business type automation, business type automation communication, and those that are for marketing email, which is totally different. And then you don't necessarily include links or any clear CTA to get engagement. So sometimes you just ask some questions, or sometimes you don't, so this call to actions are not click on this link, buy this, subscribe for this, give me something. They are more about engaging in terms of the conversation, which is totally different from the marketing email, right? And then business communications include questions, usable information related to jobs, no direct sales or marketing. So usually when you think about the business communication, you are not trying to sell or market anything. You're trying to engage with individual with regards to their profession or their work, or et cetera, et cetera. So then when you think about this, then with business type communication, there are so many things that you can do with soft ins that are totally different from the marketing email. So that's why one of the points that I really wanted you to highlight over the course of this conversation, right, is that how you can build your marketing, or how you can build your email channel to be more about business communication rather than it to be marketing email. And if that is the case and you were able to do that, then you would be much more successful with this channel and have a more healthier sleep at night, knowing that you are not breaking any laws, etc. So now a quick note here. Charities, political parties, or other non-profit bodies will not be able to rely on soft opt-in when sending campaign texts or emails even to existing supporters. This is very important, right? So if you're one of those, sorry folks, but it's different from you than what I'm talking about in terms of business conversations, etc. So general rule to remember with GDPR, right? So provide a valid contact address. So it means that you don't email to contact that are not invalid, as well as you provide a contact email address of your business, right? Like in your signature section, etc. Provide an easy option to opt out or unsubscribe. This one is also interesting because essentially you want to give people an option to opt out from getting the email from you, right? However, you don't necessarily need to be a link, right? Because if you, the opt-out can be a phrase. So for example, you can put like, if you don't want to hear from me, let me know. Or if you want to opt out from receiving emails from me, reply to this email with whatever. And that can be considered as an opt-out. So you don't necessarily need just to put the link in there. And this opt-out message can not necessarily need to be in the signature section. Really, you can just put that in the context to the people actually understanding that they can actually opt out. And then be transparent about your and your company identity, not concealed addresses or pretending to be someone else's different business, right? So that's why, and that's what I was talking about during my other webinar about email deliverability, that there are some DNS records like the Kim, Mark, SPF, BME, etc., that authorize your sending domain, authorize your mailing address, and etc., to be able to all connect it and represent your company. All right, so let's moving on real quick here. So note, also very interesting, and this is something that I also found out when I was preparing to this webinar, and I didn't know that before. So that's a surprise for me as well. Rules apply to all emails, text, picture messages, video messages, voicemails, direct messages via social, or any similar message that is stored electronically. We got the point here. So the electronic mail is any text, voice, sound, image messages. So it means that when you were not doing any email outreach because you were thinking that, well, it's better to invest into phone or cold calling because then we're not breaking any GDPR. No, you actually are. The same goes with any solicitation on social, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc., mailing. So any platform that stores information electronically is considered to be kind of a private data. So in a way, you should be looking for soft opt-ins everywhere. So that's why my point here that very often, if you think about the GDPR and not investing into email marketing, not do that, because all other channels that are digital have the same rules of the compliance like the email marketing. So you can do any of those. All right, so let's move on. All right, so can spam, very similar to GDPR. This is primarily in the United States. I've heard a lot from the companies in California that were very concerned of this, but generally it works around the US. What is interesting about this law specifically? Let's see here. So the interesting thing about this law is not just about the soft consent, right? About giving the permission to be emailed, but also about an actual process of emailing. So for example, the things to really remember about the can spam: don't use false or misleading header information, and including the domain and email address, etc. So it means that very often what kind of scammers or phishers are doing, they are pretending to be someone else, as well as they are changing the subject line, etc. So the first and the second points are really about making sure that you are the company that, and this is the message that is clear with regards to what you want to achieve with that message, right? And the second point here is don't use deceptive subject lines, or the subject line might be accurately reflect the content of the message. We all have seen this, or we all wanted to do that, the subject lines to get opened. We really wanted to get this tricky, nice message, and then the subject or the main body will be so different from the subject line. Well, that's not do that, guys. So really make sure that subject lines speak to the email body, and then you're going to be fine. Identify the message as an ad. The law gives you a lot of leeway in how to do this, but you must disclose clearly and that your message is an advertisement. So it means that if you really wanted to kind of sell something with regards to your marketing or sales, then you need to be clearly underlying that this is the marketing communication. However, if it's a business type communication, you're not actually trying to sell anything, because we all know that Modern sales is about relationship building. Modern sales about the solution selling, right? So you are selling a solution, you want to engage, you want to build relationships, and you're not trying to sell to anyone. And again, my experience and what I'm sharing with you today is purely business to business sales. So it means that I don't have experience selling directly to customers, and I'm not trying to create the process for you guys that you can use to sell on the e-commerce store or retail, consumer goods or electronics, whatever. It's purely business to business. So number 4, tell recipients where you're located. So it means that really it's about the signature section. Make sure that you have your name, your title, your email, your phone. Make sure you have your address in there and the address is accurate so that people would know where you're emailing them from. And then also tell the recipient how to opt out of receiving future emails from you. And again, this is what I've just mentioned a few minutes ago, right? Make sure that it's not even the link. You can even use that in the text, but make sure that it's clear explanation of how the recipient can opt out. So it's if you don't want to hear from me, let me know. Or if you don't want to hear from me, reply to this email. Or to opt out, click on this link, really, okay? And then honor the opt-out request promptly. This one is very, very important because what happens very often is because your marketing and sales teams are using so many different tools, the tool that is used for the emailing is different from the one that you have for the CRM. And it's why the one that you guys are using for tracking some activities or the one that you use to automate your mailbox, etc. And because of that, there's so much data discrepancies. So very often the people that opt out from one tool, they didn't opt out to another tool. That's why I personally recommend using tools that have all-in-one. For example, I love working with HubSpot and with their marketing and sales hubs to make sure that we can do both the sales and the marketing process within one platform. And so talking about how to honor the opt-out, make sure that if someone say, don't contact me anymore or opt out or remove your list, you go ahead and you blacklist them or you blacklist the whole organization. Make sure that this is followed. The same goes actually in terms of, and I think I'm going to talk about this in a minute, but the same goes with regards to how many follow-ups you send. Obviously, the markets are different. So for example, if my team works on doing the email marketing for the US market or European market or Asian market, the sequence is totally different based on the location. But then we believe that anything between 3 to 5 emails in the sequence is a golden rule to make sure that you are compliant with regards to actually getting the prospect attention, but not pushing too much. And you still can get a nice conversion, but you will less likely be moved to spam or reported, etc. So also a great thing to remember. All right, so moving on to CASL. So this one is interesting because this one is in Canada, and many companies or many Canadian companies that we started working with, they were so concerned about this law. So what is interesting about CASL here? So the two things about CASL is that in the CASL law, they have express consent and applied consent, which is a bit different. So let's just work on one by one. So express consent is a consent means someone has agreed verbally on writing to receive a commercial electronic message from you. So verbally or in writing, you got what I'm saying, right? So someone that you met at the conference, someone that you met, whatever. So that's why a lot of Canadian companies are doing a lot of trade shows, because if you met someone and you can express this consent in the email, hey, I met you there and there and there, I would love to follow up on this or something. That goes to what is your research and how like creative the outreach campaign that you're doing is, right? That's why whenever you are doing any email marketing, and this goes back to all the webinars that I've done in the past, make sure that you have a very target audience, make sure that you have a creative messaging and creative approach, and make sure that you can email the people that you know you can do business with, that you probably met somewhere or you saw somewhere or you followed, etc., so that you have some type of consent. And then the applied consent is interesting because applied consent is only recognized in certain circumstances. For example, if you're relying on any existing business relationships or etc., etc. But at the same time, so the question for you folks, is following up on LinkedIn connection is an implied consent? So if you already are part of certain group or certain network, or you follow people on LinkedIn, or you're connected with them, is this supply consent to give them the permission to email or no? We think yes. And based on our research, based on our experience, it's yes. So it means that if you're using an omni-channel approach and you're not just targeting people with ads and getting them clicked or would have went to your website, but really anyone that expressed an interest in anything that you do with regards to your company is an implied consent. It means that you can use this as an excuse to get in touch with them via different channels. So common characteristics of the GDPR, can spam, CASL, etc. So a few things here. So don't sell directly by email. So engage, build relationships, but don't sell. So make sure that you don't have clear selling CTAs or marketing. Try to engage with people, try to understand their pains, try to understand what they're doing, how you can build relationships with them and build the business relationship rather than just selling them off the first email, etc. Have some implied consent. So it means that be creative with regards to your outreach. And that's what we are doing all the time. We are researching different conferences. We are researching different venues. We're researching different webinars, groups, pages, posts, you name it, creating pages, making sure that we can be as targeted as we can with regards to our messaging and always having some time of implied consent to it. Make sure you don't mislead. It's also very important. So the messaging that you are sending, right, should be very, very important for you. And the way you send these messages. For example, don't send too many follow-ups. Don't send links, attachments, all of that to the people if you're doing the email outreach that you didn't subscribe and actually sign up for the list. Make sure that the message is clear, that it's not long, it's short, it's to the point, without any sales or marketing language and more about the business communication. All right, folks, give an option to opt out. If you're doing the cold email, then you either include the opt-out link or you do it as a message, or you put the message in the chat, or you put them on the bottom, or etc. And again, there's a lot of leeways here, but the point is that depending on what you want to achieve and how concerned you are and what is the industry that you're in, you can do all of those things, but maybe you can do majority of them and then honor the opt-out request. So it means that make sure that whatever happens, you don't contact those folks again and again, again and again. So this one, I'm going to spend a few minutes on this one and making sure that you folks all know this to do, and make sure that you make the screenshot of this and then you follow as many of those as you can. So number one, use open data sources to research leads, never buy ready-to-use database. So here's how I think about this. Companies, ZoomInfo, Apollo, my company LeadSource, BlueShop, all of those companies out there, they get the data with this or that type of from different sources, right? One of those sources obviously are all these open data sources like LinkedIn, Google, some Crunchbase, data hoovers, whatever, you name it. A lot of those are out there and they are just scraping this data into one place. And there are some companies that do different plugins to collect data. They give you some features for free so we can give the data. So there's a lot of different things. But at the end of the day, this is the data that usually users provide. But we all know that not all of us or many of us update data regularly. So a lot of us don't do that. So if you are using any of the tools that are out there that has the ready-to-use list, then it means that the quality of the leads will be questionable just because they cannot update data on a daily basis. But still, we should use those tools because if we need to get access to leads quickly, if we need a lot of leads, and if we need to give something to our sales team to use outreach for, and we need to do it for yesterday, then we can use those, right? However, if I have an option to have someone researching these leads manually and verifying data and making sure that it's very targeted, it's up to date, that it's collected today, then obviously I can expect much higher results from this campaign. Don't ever use personal email addresses. So a few years ago, when we were entering the Canadian market, and I was working with some consultants and lawyers about the CASL law there, and to answer the client questions like, is Belkins compliant? Can we do that? One guy that I was working with, he mentioned a very interesting thing. He said that, Michael, if you are not calling 15 times a day to a grandma selling cheap blue stocks, and you're really annoyed and selling and doing that for 20 times a day on her personal phone number, then you were fine. So because I hope that all the people on this call and on this webinar, they're not selling the cheap blue stocks. And if we're in a business sales and we wanted to target some folks with regards to creating engagements with them, I think we're going to be fine, as long as we're not really sending people to their personal email addresses, selling them on their personal mobile phone, and et cetera, et cetera. Make sure you write an ICP match contact, right? That's, again, very similar to the first, my point, but in a bit different. So make sure that the people that you contact can get value from what you're selling, because very often you think like, or you get a list, and in that list you have a bunch of different titles, starting with engineering title, operation title. Sometimes we get some in financial titles in there, but because it's not very relevant for those folks, it means that it's better to contact folks that are relevant with regards to your product and your service, and then you would be fine and you're going to have much higher engagements. Tailor your pitch, no spam messages. So you all know one of the products we develop is a company called Folderly. It's an email deliverability platform. And one of the great features that we have in that product is we are able to analyze your templates and your sequences based on your spam words, based on your structure, and tell you what's your sending reputation for that specific message. So we can highlight you all spam words, we can highlight you the links, the images, all of based, either it's a plain text or HTML. We can tell you what is the reputation of that email. And we always use this software for any of our Belkins clients, and we use them on a daily basis whenever we are changing any template, because we want to make sure that our messages have a very nice sending reputation. And that reputation can be changed if I have so many spam words, or my email is too long, or I have too many links, or those links are not leading to my website. It's external links, which also triggers the spam filter, etc. So a lot of things there, but by using a software like Folderly, or generally by just working closely and understanding your messaging and your pitch and tailoring it and doing it as originally as you can, would help you a lot to get better with regards to your compliance with those laws, okay? Make sure your message creates business value and not an individual interest. This one is, you can challenge this one, of course, but here's my point. Whenever I'm trying to engage with someone, I'm not engaging them from their personal interest, like investment into something, my own money, or for example, them spending their time on something outside their workplace or outside their corporate world, right? This one is very important, because if that is the case, then opposite to this, if we're concerning or we're talking to those folks regarding their business communication, their business growth, their position, their title, then essentially we are trying to establish business connection, or we had some prior business connection with our company, we're fine. As long as, again, it's not the personal individual. And because it's all connected to some other points. So it's connected to the tailored pitch. It's connected to a targeted ICP. It's connected not using your personal ID. It's connected about the freshly research. It's connected to all other points. When you think about this, it all comes together to creating this nice, clean process that will drive result. If asked to remove from the list, blacklist the domain. I've spoke about this, right? So if someone wants to opt out, if someone wants to be removed, if someone doesn't want to work with you or don't hear from you, don't contact them. Don't follow up more than 3 times, right? So it means that you have this first message and then you have 3 follow-ups. If you don't hear from those folks, you can opt out. And again, it's arguable, right? Maybe you can do 4. And I didn't say that, yeah, I just follow the 3 and that's it, because again, it's arguable. We've seen some campaigns that the 4 follow-ups would be more effective. For some campaigns, we've seen 3 follow-ups. Sometimes we even go to 2 follow-ups if we see that there's a very high rate of people opting out, saying no, et cetera, et cetera. Send emails only during business hours. It's also very important, right? You don't want to harass people of their office hours. So that's why a lot of tools have the schedule feature where you can choose what is the time zone of the individual, when the emails can be sent, what is the distribution timeline, et cetera, et cetera. Make sure that it's also purely done don't be this like, hey, we need to email them from Saturday from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. because they are having dinner with their family, so they will see the email, etc. So really, by focusing in emailing folks during the business hours, even though sometimes it's not like you can use this sales or marketing trick, but still it's much better because you're compliant, right? And then you are talking to business individuals during the business hours, right? Keep address of a sender when using automation subscribe note. If you so essentially, and that's why I mentioned this. So sometimes you can use the link. Sometimes you can do, if you don't want to hear from me, let me know. And this actually one works as a magic. And I've seen a lot of tools are using this message as an opt-out feature for people to email, and it's less generic than with the link. If possible, look for implied consent. So this goes back to all my previous points with regards to creating a very creative campaign, with regards to making sure that you have some connections with that prospect, either marketing wise or business wise, or any prior relationships or a common network or social, etc. So this point is interesting because it shows that you in 2022 you cannot be just only channel. You cannot just do email or phone or ads or social. You're trying, and you should do as much thing as you can, because then you will have those many connections with the prospect. So you will introduce your brand, your company, and you have the signals going out from you and the prospect that will see you everywhere. Sometimes they like the page, sometimes they follow up with you, sometimes they're connected, sometimes you saw them on the trade show, sometimes you get the business card, sometimes you get introduced to someone. And that is the golden rule of making that marketing successful, really being out there, being on the channel, and trying to invest as much money as you can in all of those channels. And then as a result of this, you're going to get successful sales. We have a question here. Do these regulations impact my ability to cold call or cold text prospect, or just cold email? That's a good question. Honestly, as I've mentioned in one of my slides, it's all about all the electronic mail or everyone. So it means that if you're concerned to be compliant or not being compliant with the GDPR when you think about email, then you should be the same concern when you think about text, about phone, about LinkedIn. They all are connected because based on the law, they are all the same. Try to follow all the rules that I've spoke about, not just by email, but also by phone or text, right? So you don't text people not in the business hours. You don't follow up with them 15 times a day. So let me 10 seconds time. So a few days ago, I received a call from this sales guy, and he was basically bombarding me with calls. I think it was like 10 calls. And I didn't have the phone number in my book. So I picked up the phone and say, Michael, what's up? And he started telling me something. And I was like, why you're so persistent? It's like, is something wrong? It's like, no, it's just, I want this or that. And he was very rude about that. So it's like, it's not okay calling people 15 times. The same, it's not okay sending 15 texts or sending 15 emails, right? So just make sure that you follow those rules. So Catch, you explained what Belkins does as a service. What is your pitch? How do you help companies? Yeah, great question. Let me finish with this question for those who stay on the call, all right? So there's another question. Do you have a best practice guide or deck? This shared with my team? Yes, actually, you know what? You can still do the QA, but I can show you this. So we've done some great webinars in the past. So we've done webinar about the inbound appointment setting, about closing outbound deals, about LinkedIn lead generation. We've done with the perfect email pitch and what is the best practices for cold outreach, how to work with spam filters. These links will be attached in the description for the video, as well as they will pop up here on the screen. So you can just click on the link, or you can go to Belkins YouTube channel and you can see all of those great webinars and check out, maybe utilize some of the things yourself. Also, we're doing a lot of content. So when you go to Belkins website or Folderly website, you will see different how-to guides. So we do really detailed how-to guides on how to write an email, how to research a lead, how to build a pipeline, how to bypass spam filter, right? How to put together a sales team. So they're all detailed, they're all there, they're all free. So you can just go ahead and just get the information. And then, so let me then just quickly move on to this. So essentially what we do as an agency and generally as a company, and I think we have 5 minutes for this. Maybe you're gonna, again, enjoy me talking for a few more minutes. We do appointment setting. So it's a B2B lead generation and appointment setting. So essentially my team research your potential customers, engage with them on your behalf, and then qualifies the intent. And then those that are qualified, interested in having a conversation with your sales team, then we're booking an appointment for your sales team to connect with that prospect and take it from there. The great thing about this process is that we're doing this on your behalf as your extension. So it's a holistic marketing process so that your customers would engage with your brand from the first day. So we are not like a channel partner that we just got these leads using Belkins brand and then give them to you, but we create the process as an extension to your sales team. And then by driving this process or being in the driver's seat for the period of the service, we're able to deliver the results while educating you on how things are work. So we show you how to warm up the domain, how to warm up the mailbox, how to create a sequence, what is the best practice for the sequence, what are the playbooks out there, right? How to qualify, how to work with different mailboxes, how to work with campaigns, how to work with objections, how to categorize them, how to work with the reporting, etc., how to train the SDR, what are the canned responses for this, and all those things you will learn as a result of the cooperation. And we've been focusing on appointment settings since then. So over the course of the last 5 years, we grew to be the #1 agency actually it's nationwide in the world, because we are #1 according to Clutch, G2, and all other customer review websites. And we have very high success rate. And the reason is that we have these great people, I have the great people in my team that I'm truly grateful for the work that they're doing on a daily basis. So I know some of the guys are watching this. I appreciate you all. And they are doing this amazing work and spending countless hours on the client's behalf, making sure that the success is happening. And all the process that we are doing right now, they've been developed by my team through the hard work. I think that maybe I will do a webinar specifically talking about the details of our process, right? But we've done some great things with regards to all the details, small things that people are nerdy about, and we've done all of that. And while we were a growing agency, we had a problem with spam and making sure that our emails are delivered. So we grew up building Folderly as a side project, but then it grew in a product that we're all proud of, and we have a team dedicated to growing and building that product. And now we are building a few other products. We have this amazing platform, LeadsForce. So you can check out, it's leadsforce.io. It's a platform that aggregates data, contact and company data, and you have these amazing filters that you can use to filter the data and get the perfect marketing qualified leads that you can spend 2 minutes exporting, and then they are all valid, they're all high quality, and it's a very great product. And all of my SDRs and BDRs are using on a daily basis just to get some of those leads easily, like instantly. And we're building a few other things here. Yeah, so check out what the team is doing. I'm so proud and so honored to work with these great individuals on a daily basis. So I'm sure that whenever you engage with them, or whatever you want to ask them, or whatever problem you have with regards to sales and marketing, my team can handle that and can be honestly helping you without any, if it's not a service or the product, but really just an advice or something that you have question, reach out to any channels. We'll be there to help you. I still have some questions here, so don't leave. There are some answers here. So, all right, let's make sure that I'm not missing anyone here. What if I create a demo regarding my service so GDPR may impact on it? This is interesting. I think that you can ask the prospect if they're interested in seeing your demo, and then you can send them the link to a demo, right? So but you can ask them. So you don't just blindly sell the case study. You can send, hey, this is what we've done for this company. I think it's relevant for you guys because you're in the same industry. Let me know if you want me to send more information. And then if they say, sure, send, then you can send the link. Curious about high-level services, thanks. So yeah, so appointment setting, lead research, email deliverability with Folderly or consulting fixing, template writing, and then we do this LinkedIn influencer, amazing service helping folks to establish as an influencer. And we also helping in organizing these webinars. So if you like the animation of this webinar, you can work with my team and they can do the same for you if you guys are into webinars. Automation tools like MailChimp, Lead Connect versus sending straight from email like Gmail. Thoughts? Great question. Obviously, if you are able to send emails directly through Gmail or through Outlook, do that. Very often you don't have a lot of data on those, so you cannot track the open rates, you cannot send sequences, you cannot do a bunch of other things. So it's manually, but I know some folks have that. So it's the question of the time versus value. So if you can do both, so you can have some sequences running while you're still sending manually. So the sequences will tell you what your rates are, what's your performance, and you can do A/B testing, while manually we can get higher performance. But the more manual work you do, the better the results are. However, if you're spending too much time on that, then I won't recommend that, because interesting thing just for you to think about, right? So you create this personalized messages on LinkedIn and you spend half an hour on a message or 1 hour on a message. You send 10, 20 messages a day and you get 5% response rate, 10% response rate. You have 2-3 people responding to that. If I am able to send 400 or 500 messages the same day with that kind of personalization, but not too much, I will have 2% or 5% response rate, which is twice lower than with a personalized approach. But at the end of the day, my absolute numbers will be higher. So I'll generate more responses. So which one is better? The less numbers with higher return, with higher conversion, or more emails with less conversion but more results? That's for you to decide. But yeah, I would definitely, we're using all of those tools. We have a bunch of those tools. I always joke inside that we have so much money that we spend on these tools and SaaS that it's as if it's one of the most expensive parts of our P&L list, right? So, but we do try to send manually some messages if we can. What about the opt-out option in cold calling? Honestly, that's a great question, but I don't know. Never done cold calling, potentially won't do that. If you ask me question, does it work? I think because less people are doing that. And if you have a great smart communicator on the phone talking to your customers, and if your customers have the habit of doing business via phone as well, then this channel might work for you. But I don't know what is the opt-out option. Yeah, maybe opt-out in the voicemail. Hey, yeah, I called you. This is what I want to talk about, but you can call me back. But if not, just, I know, send me a text. Hey, I'm not interested, and then I'm not going to call you anymore. Using a tool like Mixmax or similar tool for the Gmail business account. Yeah, we use Gmass and we use Streak.com. They have better performance in terms of deliverability because there's no external servers or ESP or like Amazon servers or other in there. So they have better deliverability, but they have limited functionality, limited features. And then also it's not scalable, right? Because it's not like a web application, it's an extension to your tool. So what are the ramifications if I'm not compliant based on these regulations? What happened? So what happened? Funny, but I actually don't know. I know that, as far as I know, based on my experience, when you go hard on the GDPR and you are not compliant, and they have this database, and you can Google it, they have this database or the website when they put live all the new court hearings or open or hearing cases or lawsuits, specifically around GDPR and all of those lawsuits. But most of them are huge. For example, we all know this company LastPass, right? That we use to store our passwords. We actually been using this company for several years now. We transferred to a new one. But yeah, they've been recently hacked. And you can imagine that if they are not compliant, or like they might be compliant, but it's very important for them to be compliant to all the rules, because if they were hacked because of the not being compliant, then they are screwed, right? So they need to make sure that the companies that are dealing with a very sensitive customer data on a high scale, GDPR and all the compliance are important, but all of those companies, they go through all the ISO compliance and all of those. So it's fine for them being compliant. But for us businesses that are dealing with small number of customers, contracts, B2B, etc., services, consulting work, and etc., I'm not sure whether that's the investment that you want to do to be like 100% compliant. Again, if it's not connected to your business directly. So as those who are not opt-in yet should not be getting attachments yet, is links, brochure, and cold emails considered to be one of the attachments we shouldn't be adding? Yes. Please don't add attachments. Please don't add links. Make sure that you send a plain text. You can do a link that leads to your website specifically without linking it to a word, right? Because you need to just show that it's, for example, the website link is http://belkins.io/appointment setting. So you just put the link and you don't bitling it or something, because it should go directly to your website. And you do that. We usually do 1 or 2 links, maybe it's second, third email, but not in the first email, and surely no attachments, of course. And the reason is that you don't know necessarily what are the people that you're emailing to. So it means that sometimes they have this, they're IT guys, they set up a process where you cannot receive an email that has more than like 10 kilobytes of information in there, and the attachments has more. So they won't be, or they will be bounced back automatically by their system. How do you validate an email? So you validate an email based on, so there are several things. There's a simple one and more comprehensive one. So the simple one is to using different tools like Zero Bounds and others that we are using to validate it. The not a simple one is finding the proof that email is valid, as well as sending an empty email, which not going to do so. What is the good follow-up cadence? For example, first 5 follow-up, 3 days later, second. So we've talked about this. So I've showed you one of the webinars that we've done, this one. And how to close outbound leads, as well as outreach campaign that generate ROI. We've talked extensively about this. Check it out. As long as we have an opt-in link and honor it, can we theoretically send unfiltration email or any type? If I were a lawyer and if I were like really picking on Michael and I was listening to this and just sending this text, oh my God, this guy totally is wrong, then yeah. But if you really want, and you need to work out the way, and you can create the process step by step that would work for you, but not investing into some channels would harm your business on the long term. Because if you're not doing, then you're losing your customers, or your competitors are doing that. So make sure that you're doing everything that you can to get your business to success, right? So do you have any questions? So we should be asking partner like yourself, provider, to ensure that they are adhering to these best practices, implying consent, etc. So the question is like how to make sure that the partners like Belkins are compliant. So they should have a process in place, and they should talk collaboratively about this, as well as they should have a lot of experience in there. So if you, for example, take Belkins on the account, we had more than 1,000 successful clients over the past 5 years, and everywhere we have only good feedback about our work. Obviously, if we're doing something poorly, then everyone would speak about that. As a result, I think we have 99 successful campaign and 1 unsuccessful. This is the conversion, or 98 and 2 unsuccessful very often. And we are doing our best to make sure that we can maximize results for every customer. Are there any examples of the governmental actually enforcing this regulation against companies sending cold emails? Not to my knowledge, but when I was doing the research, but they were around telecommunication companies that were sending some insane solicitation for individuals with some insane messaging and some other things. But I think that if you follow the logic of this webinar and you try to follow all these best practices, you're going to be fine. You said earlier that we shouldn't be following up in more than 3 times. Several times the person showed interest in making a partnership with us, but after his reply, that person disappeared. What should I do? That's a great question. You can continue following up. The difference between successful and unsuccessful SDR is that successful SDR will follow up more times. So our most successful SDRs are the one that is like really doing the legwork and really making sure that they follow up, not with some bullshit messaging or some generic follow-ups, but with the follow-ups that create value. But then after the 5th or 6th or 7th follow-up, we can get those appointments booked and we can get prospects engaged. Other examples in our sales team, right? If you had a call with one of our sales execs a year ago, 2 years ago, we'll be continue follow-upping with you with our marketing, with our sales team. We'll be checking in with you once in a while, sending some interesting, useful information, just checking in on how you're doing, etc. And we had so many clients that we've signed up for our services and products as a result of consistency and the nurturing and the work that we are putting in, staying in touch and staying connected. So it's very important. That's why I'd be frustrated that there was an interest and now there's none. Make sure that you have a process in place that you want, and you create content and value that you can deliver to those prospects via multiple channels like email, LinkedIn, etc. And if you do that consistently over the course of longer period of time, you will see that you will be successful. All right. I appreciate you all joining me today and listening to information about GDPR, CASL, can spam, I was genuine in my research. I was genuine in my understanding and in my belief, and I wanted to share this with you, and definitely also wanted to have this recorded, and then to have my future customers listening to this if they have similar questions and if they want to know about our approach. So I appreciate you all for joining. Make sure that you sign up for Belkins everywhere, and to make sure that you are not missing out on all the future webinars or all the past webinars that we're doing, because we have done with the same level of dedication, and we try to share everything that we know, because we wanted to educate, we want to share, we wanted you folks to be successful, because that's going to make us successful, right? So I appreciate you all for joining me today. Thank you very much, and you guys have a great rest of your day and have a productive week.